such that folks who are unable to be in today are able to observe the Sabbath with us. We are inside the sanctuary of Temple Solel, a warm and welcoming Reformed Jewish congregation. We are located on what was once Piscataway Conoy farmland, a truth we honestly acknowledge and struggle to make peace with, even as we prepare to celebrate Shabbat together. We will be using our movement's prayer book, the Mishkan Tefillah, and if you happen to be worshiping from home, it is available online via Kindle and other means. You can also order a copy for yourself if you'd like to join. It's not going to get there in time for this evening. Joining us on the Bima tonight, leading our music is me. So Shabbat Shalom, we are going to begin our Shabbat service on page 10 with Ma Yafeh Hayom. I'll wait for everybody to be able to turn to their pages. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us.
Page 2.
As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. That was interesting. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Thank you. And for those of you who wanted to join us for services last week, unfortunately, we did not hold them. So I have the lucky ability, before we do the Kiddush for all the Simchas we have, there's a lot of them to be read because I'm reading them both from last week and this week. So first of all, celebrated last week, we have the following birthdays: Dan Mitchell, Robert Wells, Cheryl Silverman, Ariel Stromberg, Brendan Klein, Brody Arnott, Chase Borden. And anniversaries from last week, we have Jody and Amy Edwards and Michael and Jessica Tannenhaus. Celebrating. Did you just say whoops? Celebrating. Celebrating this week, we have Patricia Sislin, Jody Edwards, Lara Burke, Janice Ellis, Sophia Waxman, Ryan Melodick, and then for anniversaries, we have Journey and Steve Favaza, Joshua Green and Monia Phillip, and Gary and Jackie Steinberger. Ooh, my parents. Now we'll actually do the Kiddush for those Simchas that we're celebrating.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Berei Pri Hagafen.
No, that's.
We enter this.
It's on.
It's not actually.
Okay.
We enter the sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. Within these walls, we sit surrounded by numberless generations. That's pretty spot on. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history and our endless wanderings, it has endured, a beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves. Now we, in our turn, come into this sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. Weariness, doubt, the flaws within our human hearts, the harshness of the weak, let these drop away at the door. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace settle upon us as we lift our hearts in prayer.
If you would now please turn to page 20 for Lecha Dodi. Deciding in the moment which tune I'm going to do. Lecha Dodi, Lecha Dodi Ligrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat Nikabela, Lecha Dodi Ligrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat Nikabela, Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Hishmianu el hamyuchad, Adonai echad u'shmo echad, L'shem u'tiferet v'litila, Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat Nikabela, Likrat Shabbat Lechuvenelcha, Ki mekor habracha, Merosh mikedem nesucha, Sof maaseh b'makshiva tehila, Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat Nikabela. I invite you all to please rise and face the rear of the sanctuary as we welcome the Sabbath bride. And we will shift to the last verse. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha uvtzola, tochem unei am segula, boi chala, lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat Nikabela.
It is good to praise Adonai, to sing hymns to your name, O Most High, to proclaim your steadfast love at daybreak, your faithfulness at each night. With a 10-stringed harp, with voice and lyre together, you have gladdened me by your deeds, Adonai. I shout for joy at your handiwork. How great are your works, Adonai, how very subtle your designs. A brute cannot know, a fool cannot understand this. The righteous bloom like a date palm. They thrive like a cedar in Lebanon, planted in the house of Adonai. They flourish in the courts of our God. In old age, they still produce fruit. They are full of sap and freshness, attesting that Adonai is upright, my rock, in whom there is no wrong.
I would ask everybody to please rise for the Baruch. I forgot about the whole production thing. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvorach, Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Le'olam Va'ed. Ruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher hold on. Nope, wrong one. That's the wrong one. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate you so much.
No, I was making fun of myself, not you.
Of course. So actually, I need to be joined by the person who's supposed to be doing the English with me for this. He is. All right. Good Lord.
You take after your father?
I do, thank you. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach she'arim, uvitvuna mishane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim, b'mishbirotechem be'akia kirtsono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Um'avir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo. El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to the plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, you may reign continuously over us into eternity. Blessed you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'ariv Avraham. 33. Yeah. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai,
Ohev Amo
Yisrael.
Nice. All right, ready? Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha. Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha. V'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shiftecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha v'aderech u'v'shochbecha u'v'kumecha. Ukshartam leot al yadecha, vehayu letotafot bein einecha, uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha, uvisharecha. Lema'an tizkaru va'asiten et kol mitzvotai, v'hitem kedoshim lelohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, Liot lachem lelohim, ani Adonai Elohechem.
That would have been better not to trip. All this we hold to be true and trustworthy for us. You alone are our God, and we are Israel, your people. You are our sovereign and Savior, who delivers us from oppressors' hands and saves us from tyrants' fists. You work wonders without number, marvels beyond count. You give us life and steady our footsteps. You performed miracles for us before Pharaoh, signs and wonders in the land of the Egyptians. You led your people Israel from their midst to freedom for all time. When your children witnessed your dominance, they praised your name in gratitude, and they accepted your sovereignty. Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang to you together, lifting their voices joyously.
I'm having trouble starting the tune. Chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora techilot osefele, nora techilot osefele, malchutecha ra'uvanecha, Bokei ayam, lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, zeli anu v'amru, Adonai yimloch le'olam vad. V'nemar kifad Adonai et Yaakov, Ugalo mi at hazak mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael. I apologize for the starts and stops. Let there be love and understanding among us. This is page 43, by the way. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, hapares sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. And I believe that we all need to be sitting down because it's impossible to do Vishamru standing up for the kids if everybody's standing up. So I apologize for not having you sitting down earlier. So Bram, are you going to spin for me? Yeah? Okay. Ready? Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat ledoretam berit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat ledoretam berit olam. B'nei Yevain, b'nei Yisrael, Oti leolam, Oti leolam, Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, Lasot et ha-Shabbat, ledoretam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai, Asa Adonai, et ha-shamayim v'et ha'aretz v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat ledoretam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i Shavat vayinafash. You're supposed to say stop. Shavat vayinafash v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et Shabbat leder tamberit olam. Last time. Shamru b'nei Yisrael et Shabbat. Lasot et Shabbat leder tamberit olam. And as we enter the tefillah portion of our service, everybody start being ready to pray. Be silent for a little while yourselves. I'm going to do this a little bit differently without the nigun, so just going to keep it quiet for a moment, and then I'll ask you to rise and we can say the prayer, okay? Adonai sfatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imachot, Uma'avi Gula Livnei B'neihem, L'ma'an Shemo B'Yahava, Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagain, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magain Avraham, V'Yatzrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechaye Hakol Atarav Lehoshia. Riv Haktal, Mechachel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye Hakol Barachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofe Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishnei Afar, Micha Mocha Baal Gevurot, Umi Dome Lach, Melech Memit Umahaye Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman Ata Lahiot Hakol, Baruch Ata Adonai, Mechaye Hakol. Ata Kadosh, V'shimcha Kadosh, U'kadoshim B'chol Yom, Yahalalucha Salah. Baruch Ata Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Now on page 54. You can be seated.
Right here, you set aside, Misty, this one, you set aside, you set aside the seventh day for your name, the pinnacle of creation, and you blessed it above all other days, more sacred than all festival times. So it is written in your Torah, the heaven and the earth were finished, and all their array. On the seventh day, God had completed the work that had been done, ceasing then on the seventh day from all work that God had done. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, and ceased from all the creative work that God had chosen to do. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day, and may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mikadesh ha-Shabbat. One more. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, and our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, excuse me, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, We look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. Excuse me. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength in your service. Baruch atah Adonai,
She'odcha levadcha
v'yera na'aya.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I can do it. I can do it. That is not what. For those of you who can't hear those of us in the sanctuary, congratulations. We appreciate it. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth, which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov simcha ulcha na'el lehodot. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. V'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Page 62 and 63, join me in silent prayer. Ose shalom bimromav, huyase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, imru, imru, amen. Yase shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Amen. And we're now moving to Mishaberach. Elna Refanala, O God, please hear my prayer and send your blessing of healing of body and soul, of spirit and mind, to those I know and love, to those I have not yet met, to the too many who need the blessing of your healing on this night. Elna Rafanala, O God, please hear our prayer. Tonight, God, we pray for physical healing for those who are injured and ill of body. We ask you to send healing to those whose minds struggle to make sense of the daily headlines, whose hearts ache for a loved one harmed by violence, whose souls are scarred by words or acts of hate, whose weakened or crumbling spirits long for release from unseen challenges. Watch over us all. Grant us refuah shlema, a complete and total healing as individuals and as a community. The Mishberach can be found on page 253. Mishberach avotenu mikor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. Okay, please be seated. Okay. Hopefully this is relatively short and sweet. I tried to keep it relatively short by leaning very heavily on some folks that I found on the URJ website. This week's Torah portion is Pinchas, which is Numbers 25:10 through 31. Basically, big picture summary, Pinchas is rewarded for killing an Israelite and a Midianite woman who cursed God. They were committing adultery. His action stops a plague, and God gives him a covenant of peace. Yay. Israel fights a war against the Midianites. A second census is taken, and those named in the first census have almost all died in the wilderness at this point. The daughters of Zelophehad force a change in the laws of property inheritance. Joshua is chosen to be Moses' successor, and the sacrificial ritual for all festival occasions is described in detail. So it's kind of running the entire gamut of what kinds of things that could be happening in a Torah portion. In reviewing various devars that have been put out by a number of people, I decided to lean pretty heavily on one that was published by Rabbi Lisa Grushkow in July of 2018 and one published by Beth Ellen Young in July 2022, because I thought that the points that they came out of the Parsha with that spoke to me the most were those relating to how we characterize good leadership traits. I find those extremely important, and I think that it's something that all of us can relate to, whether you're in a managerial position or not. It's just the way to be good people and how to work with other people. So in this Torah portion and also throughout the end of Numbers, Moses is constantly being reminded that he's not going to be the one that's going to lead his people into the promised land, along with the vast majority of the Israelites who left Egypt. And in conducting the second census, Moses is able to kind of sit back, take stock of how far he's been able to bring the Israelites and how their story is going to be continuing beyond him. Because his point is leaving now, but there's a lot of stuff happening in the future. And so as a leader, Moses is seeing what's enabled to happen because of what he was able to help accomplish. And so I see the first leadership trait here as being taking the time to understand the accomplishments of the people you're working with and where their efforts could take the group as a whole. So not just keeping an eye on the next task at hand, but is it getting us to a point that makes sense in the future? Are we doing this for the right reasons? Because obviously it took a lot of that to get lost and then show up again in Israel. Second, I think that the one of the big pieces from out of this, the sole survivor from the first census who is identified in the second census is actually Joshua, who, as I said in the summary, he's the one that ends up leading them forward. And Joshua demonstrated military success in the battle against Amalek in Exodus, and he's shown his confidence in the ability of the Israelites to settle in the promised land, and these are really important traits. But God indicates that Joshua is Ish Asher Ruach Bo, a man who has spirit in him. And so the way that I've liked in the interpretations of this is a second lesson that God has indicated that's important here, to consider the person's internal morals and values in addition to their accomplishments, because the accomplishments aren't everything. It's also what is it inside of you that leads you to make the decisions for the next accomplishments. It's what can happen in the future. It's not just what's already behind you. It's how you keep going. And so I think it's a really important leadership trait. Next, though we have seen Joshua as Moses' second in command throughout, he wasn't the only contender in possibly being able to do this. At the very beginning of this parasha, and at the end of the last one, is us reading the story about the zealot priest Pinchas, who again killed an Israelite man and a Midianite woman who he caught having an affair. In the Talmud, the Kotzker Rebbe in the 19th century writes, when Moses saw how great Pinchas was, he was afraid that he would be chosen as the leader, but he was not pleased with the prospect of having such a zealot as the leader of the Jewish people. He therefore asked of God that the leader be a tolerant person and not a zealous one. And the Midrash goes further, noticing the unusual name by which Moses calls God in this passage, the source of the breath. So the source God of the breath, literally the breaths of all flesh. Moses is appealing to God's knowledge of the innate diversity of human beings. And what he says is, Moses requested of the Blessed Holy One at the hour of his death, saying before God, Master of the universe, the mind of each and every one is known before you, and none of them are in the same as another's. When I am separated from them by death, I ask of you please to set someone over them who will be patient with each and every one according to their uniqueness. And so I see from out of this bit two other lessons. The third lesson thus far of a good leader should be to be able to understand and respect the differences between people rather than a zealot like Pinchas, whose instinct would be to find and kill sinners or to separate it between us and them. And the fourth lesson is that, as I mentioned here, this happens to be one of the only places that Moses speaks to God rather than God speaking to Moses. And he spoke up and put aside his own needs to address the needs of the people. So trying to keep an eye on where that leadership trait of keeping an eye of the people that you're working with and making sure that they are getting what they need, that it's not just about you, I found being really important. It also, let's see. I'm going to go back to the Parsha. One tradition suggests that Moses looks to his own children to be future leaders in Israel. And following a part of the census taking where Zelophehad's 5 daughters stepped forward to claim their father's inheritance because he actually had no sons. And so Moses voices the hopes that his sons will inherit that role. God quickly squelches this idea. The leadership of the people is not to be hereditary. Moses will not be the first in a family dynasty. Moses' legacy is to be based on merit, not blood. And so Joshua, his disciple, is the one who earns the role. And so I think that the fifth lesson is it's extremely important that a leader keep in mind how the assignment of leadership and roles might affect the perception of the people who are being led. Because if they thought that there's only one way for someone to become a leader, they might not respect them in the same way. And so how do we try and improve upon that? There's also something else to be learned about leadership from the episode of the Daughters of Zelophehad. They show some very tremendous courage as women in a patriarchal society, because at this point Judaism was still patriarchal. I was trying to go through and figure out where this was time-wise versus when it became matriarchal, and it's a pretty lengthy period of time, so I couldn't get a good answer there. But they basically, to challenge the law and stake their claim to their father's inheritance, and it's a tribute to the Torah that they're able to prevail. But there's more, because unlike almost all the other siblings that we've seen in Genesis, Cain and Abel, Isaac and Ishmael, Jacob and Esau, Rachel and Leah, Joseph and his brothers, unlike all of those siblings, there's no rivalry between these sisters. They managed to come together for the good of the family and for each other. And so I think the sixth lesson is that outstanding leadership requires constructive, thoughtful collaboration with those who are in leadership with you and working with people. So it's not just going one-sided for what only you think is the right thing. So those are the major 6 lessons that I've got. So how can I summarize all of this? Basically, Pinchas models passionate leadership. But Moses sees the risk in this type of passionate leadership. Someone so passionate will be blinded to the needs of his flock and to the differences that make them whole. In contrast, God originally chose Moses as a leader because he searched for a lamb who went astray and had compassion on its need for water. Pinchas would bring a politics of division with his passion, and so although he's rewarded in his relationship with God, he's not going to be the leader of the people. The daughters of Zelophehad, who are brought together by the love of their family and the love of the land. Joshua, who patiently sat at Moses' feet and learned from watching him lead. This are the models to which we're turning, and we look forward to the future of what's going to be coming to Israel. So I hope that all of these lessons in this week's Parsha help you to learn how to demonstrate good leadership. Shabbat Shalom. I now invite our illustrious president of the synagogue and my husband, Scott Heckinger.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you to Misty and Phil for making sure service happened, and to everyone who participated for, in fact, participating. There was an email that came out yesterday with the happenings. It's the time of year where things are fairly mild. There is no Torah study tomorrow. There is Monday night, however, is our night out at Nando's Peri Peri in Watchapel, I assume. Yep, so we've been there once or twice. It's very good, and it's for a good cause, so come out and have some dinner or lunch, I think, right? Yep, so, and with that, Shabbat Shalom.
All right, we now continue on page 282 for Aleinu. Please rise. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latek gedula leoser breishi, shelo lasanu p'yorei harashot, velo samanu k'mishpachot hadama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishachavim u'modim, lifnei melech, malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Page 287. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear, doubt, and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace.
Adar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. Please be seated. Page 295. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom have drawn into our hearts with our own. And as I mentioned earlier in the service, for those who joined us late, I'm reading the names from both last week and this week, since we weren't able to have services. Last week, Frida Silver, mother of Shelley Berman. Fred Goodman, father of Peter Goodman. Rose Levy, mother of Joan Cohen. Stella Meyer, grandmother of Doug Feinberg. Roger Garfink, father of Jennifer Motley. Rabbi Steve Mills, brother-in-law of Joe and Lisa Gottman. David Garfink, grandfather of Jennifer Motley. Clara Gershenson, mother of Barbara Mills. Sharon Camero, aunt of Miriam Hislop. Burton Thorman, father of Jan Thorman. Herman Arman, friend of Serena Bloom. Tom Ronci, father of Stephen Ronci. Samuel Gershenson, father of Barbara Mills. Lydia Rosalie Bleach, mother of Richard Bleach. Dina Osheroff, mother of Miriam Hislop. And then for this week, Herman Abramson, father of Arlene Whitmore. Michael Feinberg, husband of Madeline Feinberg. Leo Kahn, father of Gerald Kahn. Monroe Blass, father of Jill Higgs. Hilda Bloom, mother of Curtis Bloom. Herbert Silverman, father of Richard Silverman. Anne Freeman, mother of Gloria Starr. Tilly Kaufman, grandmother of Terry Leonovich. Mildred Nathan, grandmother of Brad Nathan. Anna Weinstein, grandmother of Victoria Fain. Edith Newman, mother of Cheryl Wells. Sol Zuta, grandfather of David Wanger. Bertha Benjamin, mother of Melvin Benjamin. Goldie Cohen, aunt of Carol Newman. Adele Lustbader, mother of Louise Johansson. Selma Polger, mother of John Polger. Meyer Segal, grandfather of Meredith Scher. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. Please rise, page 294 for the Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei rabba, v'yalma divarach hirute v'yamlich malchute, v'chayechon v'yomechon, v'chayeh d'chol beit Yisrael. Bagala v'zman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach le'olam almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudusha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechamata. Damiram v'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehesh lama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Huyaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. And for our closing song, we are going to do Ein Kelahenu on page 322. Ein Kelohenu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein ein kemelkeinu, ein kemoshienu, mi Eloheinu, mi Chadonenu, mi chemelcheinu, mi chemoshienu. No del Eloheinu, no del Adonenu, no del Malkeinu, no del Moshienu. Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu. And with that, Shabbat Shalom to everyone. I hope everyone has a wonderful week. Shabbat Shalom.